Jeff Passan of ESPN. Jeff, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Gentlemen, how are you?
Hi, Jeff.
It's great to be with you.
Great to hear from you. Okay, so the latest round of reporting, this latest bit of news that Major League Baseball and their players and the teams, or most of them anyway, are going to be part of this antibody testing study. I know you have reported, and the league has made it clear, and the folks at Stanford have made it clear that this is not about Major League Baseball getting back on the field. It's not intended to get them back on the field. It's not intended to prioritize them over anyone else who needs the tests, and it's not about that, okay? I understand that's been the reporting. I know that's what they're saying. Tell me, it's got to be at least a little bit about it, doesn't it, Jeff?
Listen, I always am naturally and inherently skeptical of things. And the idea that Major League Baseball is doing this just to be part of a social cause, that may be the underlying reason. I don't think there's any quid pro quo going on here, though. I think that, if anything, baseball recognizes that this is like a good look for the sport. If it's trying to help solve the COVID crisis, or at least get us one step closer to solving it or understanding it, and it can use the levers that it has in its business to do so, I don't see a real downside to that. Plus, beneficially for the people who are involved in the sport and who take the tests, they now know whether they have COVID antibodies or not. And that's just a good thing to personally know. Like, I would love to have one of those tests. I don't think I have the antibodies, but if I did, I would very much like to know, because it would allow me to sleep a little better at night. So I think there's that benefit there to it. But I don't think that they are going to be collecting the data on the players, Mike, because I don't think that a lot of the teams are testing all of their players. So it would just be a really incomplete set of data to use as a reason to go back to play.
So, Jeff, since you brought that part of it up, there are apparently 3 teams that are not participating at all. And so, two-part question, why wouldn't those teams participate? And why wouldn't all the players participate?
I have absolutely no idea why a team wouldn't participate in this. Maybe they have ownership that has particularly strong civil libertarian leanings, and that, they feel like giving their blood out to anyone is a bad thing. I don't get it. I just think it's a really important thing to do from a scientific perspective. But hey, well within their rights to go ahead and do that. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Why wouldn't they use this as an opportunity to find out all players rather than just some of them?
I don't think the union would let that happen. And I completely understand that. Just with the history of testing of players with certain things, the history of trying to get honest testimony to the league, whether it's drugs, back when they did the survey testing. And as we know, the results of the survey testing ended up coming out with players talking and being granted immunity with the Astros. They weren't really immune to a whole lot of things. So going and giving blood to the clubs, that may turn around if a year down the road we find out that people who have had COVID have some sort of long-term issues medically, like the ability of teams to weaponize that. What we don't know is too strong for the union to agree to have all players tested. And that I totally, completely get right now, before they have some kind of agreement back to play in place.
Jeff Passan, ESPN, you've done some reporting about all of Major League Baseball packing up and heading to Arizona. Subsequent reporting saying, well, no, Florida teams go to Florida, Arizona goes to Arizona. If you had to bet, which plan, what do you think it's going to look like?
Oh, Arizona. The Florida thing just turns into too much of. Listen, Arizona's a logistical nightmare as is. Now let's take Arizona and do it like 3 other ways. That's the problem with the Arizona and Florida plan. It's that you have so many logistical things you have to deal with to begin with. You have to get security. You have to get a perimeter. You have to get hotels. You have to get procedures and protocols in place. You need to get governments, local governments working in concert with you. If you have it in one place or one metropolitan area, at very least you know the people involved are going to be working well together. If you have it in Phoenix for one, quote unquote league of teams, and then sort of like Northwest Florida, and then like Southwest Florida, and then the East Coast of Florida, you're just dealing with so many municipalities at that point that the red tape is going to go up somewhere, and all you need is one of those areas to scuttle this because of an outbreak or for some other reason, and everything falls apart.
Well, so Jeff,
at very least, here's the thing: if you put all your eggs in one basket here, it gives you a greater chance of success.
Okay, so I would agree. My angle and my thought was why Florida, Arizona made more sense is because the players are more likely to go for it. Because if you can tell every player he can go live in his off-season home or his rented home, and every team gets to go to their off-season base, that that actually is more feasible than having half the league pack up and move across the country. That was my thought.
Yeah. No, it is. But, Mike, the problem is it goes against everything that this plan embodies. Like, you can't live at your house if this plan's going to work. The whole reason that Anthony Fauci came out today and said that this is a workable plan for Major League Baseball is because he is under the impression that players are going to agree to stay in hotels and go from hotel to ballpark to hotel. They're not going to go out drinking. They're not going to go out partying. They're not going to go out doing anything. They can't even go out to grab a hamburger around the corner. That is not part of this plan and how it's going to work. And so as nice as it would be, I totally agree with you. Like in an ideal world, in a non-COVID world, you send guys to their houses and we do it that way. But the problem is the number of people you run into who could be infected and then pass along the infection to you. And because these are strong athletes, the infection could very easily be asymptomatic. And then you pass it along to a 70-year-old first base coach who has a history with heart problems and he dies. Like, I hate to be so blunt.
No, I get it.
That is just when you are doing something like this, the reason you can is because of the integrity of the bubble. If the integrity of the bubble is punctured, the whole thing falls apart. And that's why this plan has been so pie in the sky from the start, because the notion of having 1,200 20 and 30-something-year-olds who, by and large, are in the top 1% of earners and who have lives that are unlike what any of us can even possibly fathom, and keeping them inside for months at a time is so fanciful and so absurd, but it is also the only way to do it.
Jeff, just quickly, the let's say that they could go ahead with this plan, the union signs off on it. Do you think there's any threat of players still saying, I'm not going? I mean,
Tony,
big name players, Jeff. Big name players.
Yeah, 100%. Mike Trout's going to have a kid this summer. He's not going to want to miss that. And so you're going to need dispensations in place to allow people to leave the bubble. Now, the players are going to have to agree when they come back in, they're probably going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. They're not going to be able to play for 2 weeks while they're tested. Or maybe they come back inside and they're tested, and that quarantine period is a week. All of these things are up to discussion, but it's not a bilateral discussion. You've also got the science element here, and none of these things can be agreed upon if the scientists don't rubber stamp it. That's the part of this that's such a game changer. Typically the union and MLB can come to an agreement on things when it makes sense and is pragmatic for both sides. In this case, they might find something that seems pragmatic, but the health officials say, nope, that can't happen. Integrity of the bubble is compromised. And so there is certainly a chance that we could have baseball this year. And big names just say, nope, don't want to do it. Not worth the money for me. I've made my cash. I'll wait until the 2021 season.
Jeff, well, thank you so much for taking the time. We know you're busy. I think, hard to know, right? We're all working, but then again, can't leave the house. But we do appreciate the time either way. Thanks again.
I am busier than I would be if the season were actually going on right now. So yes, I am one of the few, but I'm trying, and appreciate you guys having me on.
Okay, Jeff, thank you again. We do appreciate it.